Enter the world of Hollywood's most interesting and beautiful women on the next Entertainment Tonight. First, actress Jill Ireland shares a scene with husband Charles Bronson and shares the secrets of her own personal triumph.
I would like to think that women could go through what I've gone through and not feel less of a woman.
Plus, Crimes of the Heart star Jessica Lange goes back to school with a lesson for the filmmakers of tomorrow. When you
watch Entertainment Tonight, weeknights at 11 on 5 TV.
Help for bladder control problems tonight on Segment 5 Health Report.
Good evening, I'm Hugh Downs.
And I'm Barbara Walters. And this is 2020.
On the ABC News Magazine, 2020 with Hugh Downs and Barbara Walters.
Tonight, ever wonder how any human body learns to do this? Well, meet gymnastics coach Bela Karoli.
Move it, move it, move it, move it, move it, arms up, faster!
He gave the East Nadia Comaneci. Then he defected and gave us Mary Lou Retton.
Bella is very tough in the gym. You know, I did something good and I wanted to show it. And you'd look over for his approval and he'd be shaking his head like this.
That toughness is now producing new stars. What are his secrets? Bob Brown takes you inside his world, Bella's Girls.
Today's women, even if Mr. Right doesn't come along, they're determined to have children.
I know there's going to be a lot of men who think that I want everything. And yes, I do. And not only that, but I can get it all.
That feeling has helped fuel this revolution. Yet for these women, the sacrifices are enormous. What compels them to do it? Hugh reports why Mom's the only one.
And who deserves a solid meal more than GIs? And yet some have gotten contaminated, rotten food.
I think you should be honest with the troops and say, hey, we've got a product here that's not safe to feed you.
Our investigation shows these pouches are to blame. The Pentagon says no, but their own records help make the case. Tom Jarriel tells of compromise and incompetence and the food that's not fit to eat.
When I'm on a road like this and come up on the bumper of one of those 20-grand driving machines, I love watching the driver's face as I blow his doors off with my Mazda 626 GT Turbo. It isn't just the outstanding turbo either. Somehow the automatic adjusting suspension, the high-performance tires, the four-wheel disc brakes, all come together into one of the best road cars you ever put your foot into. And it doesn't cost anywhere near 20 grand. Uh-oh, this guy's going to want me to buy him a new set of doors.
What do you think? If, as President Reagan's new budget calls for, our defense bill tops $300 billion, shouldn't we be able to give our GIs a meal that won't make them sick? Well, one would think so. And their well-being aside, what good is spending billions on defense if we make soldiers so ill they can't do their job?
Barbara, that reminds me of a saying attributed to Napoleon, that an army moves on its stomach. And what Tom Jarriel found out is that after our GIs down a new kind of field ration, some of them may not be able to move anywhere, certainly not on their stomachs. Now, as a veteran, this disturbs me. I remember we complained enough about Army food 45 years ago, but at least it was edible then.
Oh, by the way, have you dined yet, Sergeant?
Yeah, and you have too.
Military food, a favorite target of complaint in both the U.S. Army and the Marine Corps. These Hollywood GIs from the 1945 film A Walk in the Sun wonder where it comes from.
Where did they get this stuff?
You know the sewers?
What sewers?
Any sewers, the Hoboken sewers.
How do you know? You got a brother works in the sewers?
Never mind my relations. You want me to tell you how they get it out of the sewers?
No, I'm eating it.
During World War II, the combat soldier got most of his food in green cans called sea rations. During that war, GIs took time out from combat to gulp down sea ration ham and lima beans. For 40 years and in battlefields all over the world, GIs have eaten sea ration pressed turkey loaf, Spam, and lots of beans.
Beans and meatballs.
Beans and franks, hash, date bread, and applesauce. Although American soldiers complained bitterly about the taste, or rather the lack of taste, of the sea rations, there were a few documented cases of soldiers actually becoming sick from the green cans. Sea rations seemed to fill the stomach, even if they didn't fully satisfy the palate and the soul. While military food has been the brunt of many a gripe and many a joke, in war it ranks alongside bullets as one of the most important commodities to the fighting man. 7 years ago, the Army, which supplies field rations to the other services, replaced sea rations with these space-age meals in plastic bags. They're called Meals Ready to Eat, or MREs. Plastic bags are lighter and easier to fit into the cargo pockets of Army fatigues. Soldiers could either eat these MREs cold, straight from their plastic sacks, or they could drop the pouches in hot water and heat them. Convenient? Yes. But last spring, problems were discovered with the meals ready-to-eat rations, which may give the Army its most damaging food scandal since the Spanish-American War, when more U.S. troops died of contaminated beef pickled in formaldehyde than died of Spanish bullets. 76 million meals ready to eat had already been consumed by GIs in the field before last March, when food inspectors for the Army discovered serious health problems. Sizable numbers of the packages were swelling up like balloons. Colonel Jerry Allgood, who recently retired from the Army, was in charge of the military food inspectors.
This is chicken a la king. It sounds good. Would you eat that?
Not in that bag. Sure wouldn't. You'd get food poisoning if you ate this package. Would come down with vomit and diarrhea, and you can put somebody down pretty quick like that. You're not going to be able to fight if you eat it.
You're challenging, though, the food supply to all of our troops, all of our frontline forces.
That's right.
That's a serious challenge.
That's right. And I think you should be honest with the troops and say, hey, we've got a product here that's not safe to feed you. We're not going to feed it to you, and we're not going to put it back out to you until we've got it corrected.
Colonel Allgood said his superiors in Washington at first were hesitant to accept his inspectors' findings. These inspectors discovered that microorganisms had grown in the plastic pouches, producing a putrid gas. The inspectors dubbed these pouches bloaters. Other damaged packages, known as leakers, dripped foul fluids and emitted obnoxious odors. So what was going wrong? Sealed packages of food swelling up like balloons. Well, somehow bacteria was getting inside, but how? The detective work was performed here at Fort Sam Houston, at the Army's Health Services Command, in a lab where they perform what's called the Zyglo test. The test, a slow, time-consuming process, begins as lab technicians cut open plastic meal pouches from selected lots. They then rinse out the contents and hang up the empty bags on a clothesline. The bags are injected with a fluorescein dye called Zyglo. After the lights are turned off, technicians look for dye leaks with an ultraviolet light.
All right, here's a possible probable leak right here.
If a Zyglo dye leak can be seen coming from a pouch, it's a good clue there's a hole in it. Microorganisms could enter the pouch through that hole and cause the food to spoil. If a hole is found, the Army impounds every meal in that lot. Army tests show that the plastic bags from the manufacturers arrived without holes. The meals ready to eat were pulled out of the field in May. This forced a temporary fallback to the field kitchens, which would be impractical in combat. The Army let most of the MRE meals back in mid-November, but today is still spending an inordinate amount of time in labs looking for holes. We found the holes are not the only likely source of food contamination. To find these sources, you must look at the plants where the meals are prepared. It's important to remember that Colonel Allgood's Army inspectors caught the contaminated meals after they left these plants. The federal government furnishes an entirely different set of government inspectors for duty inside the plants. These inspectors work for the U.S. Department of Agriculture. The question then, why didn't these inspectors catch the problems? Last fall, we watched Agriculture Department inspectors monitor the manufacturing process at this Meals Ready-to-Eat plant run by Star Foods in San Antonio, Texas. Inspectors hovered about as workers cooked beans and barbecue sauce, fill the plastic bags, seal them, and pressure steam the pouches to sterilize them. At any step along the assembly line, the inspectors could reject the meals as unsafe, and often do, but not often enough.
There were hands all over. It was handled too many times.
Chuck Gordon was warehouse and personnel manager for Star Foods for 8 months in 1983-84.
The more hands that you get involved in food, then the more contamination, the possibility of contamination exists. So the cooking process itself helps to eliminate initial contamination, but if that food happens to be transported from this area to the other area and some of it is dropped on the floor, or someone who just let their gloves off, or their hand is unclean, reaches in there to help put it into another vat, then you got automatic contamination.
Gordon told us about one MRE shipment from Star Foods that was returned because there were maggots in the pouches. He said he told the workers to open the bad pouches and empty their contents in garbage cans.
They were all getting sick. They came to me and complained that they were sick and they had to go home and they couldn't take it, and masks didn't do any good. It didn't stop the stench.
Star Foods denied this story. Gordon, who spent 8 years in the military, including 2 years in Vietnam, said he was later fired from Star for complaining about shoddy products. He told us that the plant personnel sometimes fool the Agriculture Department inspectors. He described one incident in November of 1983 when he said 40,000 pounds of contaminated applesauce were sneaked by the inspectors. He said the workers were opening large cans of applesauce with an old-fashioned hand-cranked opener, and that large metal shavings from the cans fell into the sauce. The shavings were
big enough to see and to feel. If you swallowed it, you would definitely know that you swallowed something that wasn't supposed to be there.
Gordon said the inspector condemned the whole lot. He said he was told, though, by his boss not to throw the sauce away, to process it again that night when the inspector was gone, and to put it back in the pouches only after a most unusual effort was made to clean it up.
They went down and bought a very large magnet and tied a string to the end of it and proceeded to drag the magnet through the applesauce in an effort to pick up the metal filings.
We asked Star Foods President L.C. Robbins about the 40,000 pounds of applesauce.
If we did, I don't recall it, Tom. I really don't.
We then raised the issue with the Agriculture Department.
In our documentation, which on the case, which isn't really what we'd like it to be, and consequently we've asked for an investigation.
And Dr. Foreman said another investigation has been requested by the Agriculture Department's Inspector General concerning the activity of federal food inspectors at Star Foods. It centers on a charge made by this inspector, Mike Larson. He was transferred from Star Foods after just 1 day on the job. That was long enough. He told Army inspectors the sanitation within Star Foods was the worst he had ever seen in an MRE plant.
A USDA inspector said that this was the worst plant he had ever inspected. There again, we had constant inspection by their own USDA inspectors, and if that was the case, I don't know why it wasn't brought to someone's attention in the 3 years that we had been running before that.
Star Foods was the biggest MRE producer last year, responsible for 25% of the MRE production. But in fairness to Star, we need to point out that Star Foods was not the only producer that turned out some bad meals ready to eat. Agriculture Department and Army inspectors rejected meals from all 6 producers, including 2 major food producers. At Green Giant, for example, they found leakers and gross hairs in frankfurter lots. And at Del Monte, they found leakers in beef stew and in ham and chicken lots. Despite Army documents to the contrary, Green Giant denied they had any products rejected. Del Monte asserts that they have complied with government specifications and have had on-site inspection by the government. Despite evidence to the contrary, we found some top Army brass reluctant to admit that there are documented cases of soldiers getting sick from eating MREs. Undersecretary of the Army, James Ambrose.
If you have such a documentation, I'd like to have it. I'm not aware that there's any direct trace between these kinds of meals and illness.
The documentation which 2020 obtained under the Freedom of Information Act came from the Army. Some cases? Item. At Fort Campbell, Kentucky in May, 2 reserve officers reported to the base hospital with symptoms of food poisoning within 5 hours of having consumed an MRE meal. Item. At Fort Huachuca, Arizona, 5 or 6 people got sick on Sunday afternoon with symptoms of diarrhea, stomach cramps, and nausea. They were members of the Arizona National Guard and had MREs for lunch before they became ill. Item. During Operation Gallant Eagle on July 28th of last year, 5 soldiers reported to the dispensary with symptoms of vomiting and diarrhea within 3 hours of consuming an MRE meal. Lieutenant General Quinn Becker is Surgeon General of the Army.
It's highly suspicious, and certainly it bears investigation. And as I said, before, we've had several reports like this, and but we have not been able to definitely tie it to the MRE.
You can't prove it is the MRE, but you can't prove it
isn't. That's exactly right.
We made repeated attempts to investigate these incidents and to talk with the soldiers firsthand who were involved. but the military effectively blocked our access and refused to cooperate. But soldiers and Marines are not the only government employees issued MREs. They were also issued to U.S. Forest Service firefighters in Idaho last summer. Documents obtained by 2020 led us to this man, Dale Ford. Ford was in charge of the warehouse where the Forest Service MREs were stored. He told us about his MRE experience.
I opened one up and it smelled kind of funny, and I was looking at it and it smelled like something was dead in there.
He said his hungry firefighters now carry substitute meals and stay away from the MREs.
We had some volunteers that were brought in that were just picked up off the street, and those guys at first would take anything we give them, but after a while they wouldn't even touch the MREs.
Last year, the Army had millions of meals ready to eat stored in warehouses, waiting to be medically cleared or condemned. Thousands of others were destroyed as unsafe. There remains a cloud of suspicion about the safety of the rations. And last fall, the largest MRE producer, Star Foods, shut down. But with the old C rations gone, there is no other combat-ready substitute to feed the troops.
What would you think if you were back in Vietnam in the field and got a contaminated pouch for your evening meal?
I would save the pouch, and as soon as I got back to the States, I looked for the company that produced it.
And?
And I would take them back to Vietnam with me, whoever was responsible, and let him decide where he was going to get his next meal from.
I can't
One angry man.
Yeah. Tom, what effect could this have on mobilizing in an emergency?
Well, it already has slowed down the extensive field training of some units. They have had to use the large field kitchens instead of having the combat rations. Without those, they've been unable to go out and have extensive maneuvers.
Why can't somebody at the top say, fix this and report back to me in a week?
Well, only that simple, but it's complex because they have to find the source of the problem and then they have to try to correct it. And this involves a number of small manufacturing firms that turn out this food. They're moving on it, but they have bids that were supposed to have been let at the end of last year that still have not been let on these. The production lines have slowed down, and the MRE program is, frankly, very idle at the moment.
Complex. Thank you, Tom.
Certainly.
Further?
Well, later, you'll meet a woman who has had children without sexual relations and without knowing who the father is. Hugh will report why Mom's the only one. But next, new stars from the man who gave us Nadia Comaneci and Mary Lou Retton. Bob Brown reports Bella's Girls. Stay with us.
If you're interested in earning more than a paycheck, the Century 21 system announces a week of opportunity. Mark your calendar now for career sessions. Find out why we're number one, the best-known professionals in the business. Find out about our career track training, one of the most comprehensive programs in real estate. Call the Century 21 office nearest you and make a date with your future.
Number one to wait for you, Century 21.
Don't miss the Century 21 Career Opportunity Week, now through January 18th.
The top quality cars and trucks on the road today.
You know, for my money, all the quality claims from here to Tokyo and back again can't stand up to 6 simple words. 5 years or 50,000 miles. That's the warranty you get when you buy any car or truck built by Chrysler. With some other car makers, after 2 or 3 years, it's so long, auf Wiedersehen or sayonara. Which makes you wonder, how much confidence do those guys really have in the quality they're talking about? At Chrysler, we've backed over 5 million engines, over 5 million powertrains, over 5 million car and truck bodies with 550 protection. If they fail or fall apart, we fall on our faces. But something is holding us up, quality. So the next time you hear somebody talking quality, take a look at his warranty, then take a look at ours. To me, it's simple. If you're looking for who builds them best, take a look at who backs them best.
Today, state-of-the-art means a touch of the finger. From beautiful things to beautiful skin. Pond's deep cleansing cold cream in a pump. Simply state-of-the-art.
This mirror reveals the whole truth. This woman just washed with soap. See the makeup and dirt soap leaves? I recommend Pond's cold cream to lift away what soap doesn't for cleaner, beautiful skin. No soap does what Pond's does beautifully.
Imagine a country without freedom.
The slavery starts when someone says, no, you can't go here. You stay here forever.
Imagine a country without hope.
Freedom means to me to be free, to share,
to do whatever you want to do equally without any line drawn.
Imagine a country called America, starting February 15th.
At the 1976 Summer Olympics, this young gymnast became a worldwide sensation. She's Nadia Comaneci. And before you could count to 10, thousands of little girls in this country were kicking off their ballet slippers and eyeing the uneven parallel bars. Today, some of our top gymnasts are in the same position young Nadia was so many years ago. They're in training with the best gymnastics coach in the world. And who he is and where he came from is half of a great story, and the other half will keep you spellbound. Bob Brown tells us why the girls flip for Bella.
For that moon that passed by the Alamo and rode my road in San Antonio.
When he heads for his ranch on a rural highway north of Houston, in his four-wheel drive with Merle Haggard on the dashboard cassette deck and a day's collection of bugs on the windshield, well, you'd swear you were riding with a born Texan. When Bela Karolyi defected to the West, he defected to the West. It's been 6 years since Karolyi, a native Transylvanian who traveled here as the coach of Romania's gymnastic team, sought and received political asylum in this country. Now, on the property he bought with his earnings as a private coach in the U.S., he plays his newly acquired role as a part-time redneck to the hilt, including the name he gave his prize bull.
That sucker is Gorbachev. Look at that dumb face. Be tough. Okay? Be tough, aggressive.
This is the image of Bela Karolyi that the world has grown accustomed to seeing. The intense, relentless coach who now turns out championship gymnasts for the United States.
And the side.
This is a competition in Honolulu last November between the U.S. and China. Christy Phillips is one of the most promising of Karolyi's new generation of students.
Go faster.
The second much faster than this one. That was all right.
As a coach, Karolyi seems able to synchronize his own energy with the athletes. When Christy Phillips began her next run at the vault, Bella shut out the world and locked on to her gathering speed, coach and gymnast aiming toward goals in the future that Bella's other students helped establish in the past.
Good.
Mary Lou Retton, winner of the overall women's gymnastic competition in the 1984 Olympics, a student of Bela Karolyi. World and Olympic champion Romanian teams, the brightest star was Nadia Comaneci, the first Olympic gymnast ever to score a 10 for perfection.
Does it mean any difference that you train kids under a communist system and now you're training kids under a capitalist system?
That's a good question. One of the reasons I'm here now, because the government involvement in gymnastics, because a political system wanted to take something from the honest work of the kids and my personal honest work and to say, because we're a communist country with a strong communist mentality, that's why our kids are so great. Don't mess politics with the gymnastics. Don't try to take something from their merit. And if Ronald Reagan came out and they said, hey, Mary Lou Retton became an Olympic champion because I'm the president of the United States. No, the politics has nothing to do with it.
Bela lives near Houston and has prospered here because of the gym he purchased in 1982 using his reputation as collateral. He has since expanded it into this huge facility. On any day, you will find it full of gymnasts, training according to their age and abilities, all of them female.
You have to release
connection
it.
will be there?
When Bela and his wife Marta, as physical education instructors in Romania, first began to train kids, they noticed that boys already knew plenty of games and activities. And so Bela and Marta concentrated on organizing physical programs for girls, tumbling and gymnastics. Bela's success in building strong, consistent women's teams has attracted these tuition-paying students, well over 500 of them, from all parts of the country, to spend hours before and after school each day, thinking and practicing and living gymnastics, to train with Bela Karoli. Only a handful will have a chance to make the Olympics, but Karoli demands Olympic-style dedication from them all.
Many times the parents are asking me on the very beginning, do you think she's going to become a great champion or she's going to be an Olympic champion? And honestly, I'm telling them, I don't know, and nobody knows. And it would be a dirty lie to tell to you, yes, she's going to be an Olympic champion, because I just can't predict that. But I do predict, and I know, I'm telling you right now, she's going to be a winner anyhow, going to be somebody who's going to handle her job no matter where, and no matter in what circumstances, with promptness, with straightness, and with good practical manner. Move it, move it, move it, move it, move it, arms up, faster! My God, what you doing, Phoebe? You're hitting the board on the very, very edge over there on that corner. Smooth it out. Control yourself, Phoebe.
When other coaches have criticized Karoli, it has usually been for his toughness. He demands constant repetition. He aims toward building strength and endurance as well as finesse.
Going out. I'm just telling you, don't stop it. Move it round around. One more time.
And he can be cold and abrupt when he isn't pleased.
You don't want to understand, I'm sorry.
Bela is very tough in the gym. And I used to always smile because, you know, I did something good and I wanted to show it. And you'd look over for his approval and he'd be shaking his head like this. You know, nothing's perfect for him, which is good. That's how you make good gymnasts to be great gymnasts.
Two of Karoli's best students, both 14 years old, are Phoebe Mills and Christy Phillips, the current U.S. Junior Women's Champion. Christy is the gymnast we saw Bela coaching earlier in a Honolulu competition. She and Phoebe train together. They are also competing for the same goals and dreams, the Olympics. Karoli knows that and uses it, as he has with other gymnasts in the past, to get each to try harder.
As long as the competition is there, the progress is fast and consistent.
But you put them together for that reason then, right?
I never stopped them to compete, and it would be a big mistake to stop them competing. That's all about. That's a competition. And I'm encouraging all the time the competition, and I love to see the competition. Where is no competition, there is no improvement.
What seems to balance Karoli's fearsome competitive streak is his flair for theatricality.
But how about that pretty lady, that colorful pretty lady right on the first?
He spent almost an hour getting into the makeup of another famous Transylvanian expatriate for this Halloween party at his gym. But like a lot of other immigrants, despite his obvious talents, Karoli did not, at first, find it easy to make a new life in this country. Bela and Marta have a daughter, Andrea, who became entangled in international bureaucracy and wasn't allowed to leave Romania and join her parents here until a year after their defection.
Good girl.
Andrea is now 13. She isn't involved in competitive gymnastics, and that's fine with Bela. In those first months in America, waiting for word on his daughter, Bela worked as a cleanup man and on the docks in Long Beach, California, learning English by watching Sesame Street and by discussing with his wife after a day's work what his foreman had been yelling at him.
And I said, I haven't learned the word, son of a bitch. She said, all right, you know, what does it mean? I said, I don't know, but let's get the dictionary out. So I took the dictionary and looked it up, and son, fine, son of somebody, that's fine. Then bitch, okay, so look at son. Bitch is, you know, it's a female dog. I said, all right, female dog. So son of the female dog, there's got to be a puppy.
I said, well, this guy was pretty nice with us, you know. He looked mean, but he was really nice, you know, puppy dog. Yeah, that's all right.
Bela kept that in mind when he finally got a job teaching gymnastics at a summer clinic run by the University of Oklahoma.
So I was teaching gymnastics, and then they really done well. I said, oh, good little son of a bitch, good son of a bitch, good son of a bitch. And the kids were looking at me, what in the world is this guy?
I had trouble with actually the first workout. We were vaulting, and he goes, okay, Mary Lou, he goes, do handstand, handstand. And it was my turn. I looked behind, and I asked Diane, I said, what did he say? What did he say? Boof, boof, come on, boof, boof. Boof, 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 boof.
Hoppa!
He just gives a lot of different sound effects. Just a regular, normal person would come in and think he was crazy. But it's something that you have to learn to live with.
Bela says he'd been told when he came to the U.S. that American kids are spoiled and undisciplined and wouldn't work hard enough. It was a matter of concern until he realized, after his first few weeks of teaching here, that he couldn't find those faults in his students. And to this point, their success in competition has proved him right. Honolulu, November 1986. At a gymnastics competition between the U.S. and China, the ceremonial aspects had special significance for Bela and his athletes.
These are the gymnasts of the United States of America.
Instead of having to turn his gymnasts over to another coach to represent the U.S., Bela, for the first time, will be an accredited coach for his new country and permitted to remain on the floor. Christy Phillips and Phoebe Mills, those two competitors in Bela's gym, are here on his team, along with 4 other members. They are now competing together, not only with a strong team from China, but with U.S. athletes and U.S. coaches from gyms in other cities. The highlights you'll see feature Christy, Phoebe, and the Chinese gymnast you're watching in the red outfit, Chen Qing. Dramatic performances and bobbles on both sides kept the team scores neck and neck to the end. But that suspense is apparent without color commentary when you watch through the eyes of U.S. coach Bela Karoli.
Yeah. Control, Phoebe. Okay. You went just too hard for it. Easy. Freaking easy. You went too fast on the beginning with 200 miles an hour. Easy. Smooth. All right. No. All right. But, the mistake is mistake. I want to see what kind of competitor you are now. Or guts you have. Because you have guts. If you want to, okay? As much you can. Just nice and smooth. You can do it. I know it. Easy. Easy. Right. You just stop it. You got the gun.
The final event, the floor exercises, would also decide the team championship. Chen Qing's performance was spectacular. With the championship on the line, again with Bella seeming to synchronize himself into it, Phoebe Mills proved herself a star.
Dance that, Phoebe. Dance that now. All right. Good. Good old girl. Control. Yoo-hoo! He got it. He got it. That's true. That's true. All right. Smooth, nice high. Smooth. Wow, that's what you need.
Phoebe got a 9.85 in the floor exercise, and the overall results could hardly have been better for Bela Karoli.
You did it. All right. That was a good one, really good.
His team led the U.S. to a win, and athletes from his gym won first and second in the individual honors, though not as the experts might have predicted. This time, Phoebe Mills was the gold medalist. Christy Phillips placed second. Old friends were there to congratulate the team, and Bela, who, despite his first win from the floor with a U.S. team, still will not be eligible to coach in the '88 Olympics. He will miss within a few weeks of qualifying as a citizen. But through his athletes, Bela Karoli will somehow be in the midst of that competition.
By choice, I'm here. And I knew it. If work very hard, sometimes some days I'm going to make it again. And that's happened all my life. I love competitions. I love to go out and to compete. And when I'm going out, I'm not concerning about anything else than to be the winner, to win. And I love to win. That's the truth.
What a lovable character. He makes competing that tough seem like absolutely the right thing to do. The kids are so young, though, Bob. 8, 9 years old.
Well, it's true. The kids are essentially still training at the same young age that they've always trained at. Bela started to put them into competition at a younger age because he feels that they're less distracted and they're fearless.
What happens to the ones who don't win? So few can become
Well, it's true that the odds are very long, but in a way, the fact that it'll all be over by the time they're in the early 20s works for them because they do still realize that they have to plan ahead for education and career goals.
Oh, the one that wins. Thank you, Bob. It was wonderful to watch, wasn't it?
Sure is. Well, next, I spent some time recently with some women who are part of a powerful new trend, and you'll see why and how more and more single women are having babies on their own. Mom's the only one. Right after this.
This man is missing nearly 1/2 of the fiber he should have every day. He's not the only one. The National Cancer Institute states that most Americans have diets lacking adequate fiber. Fortunately, just one serving of Kellogg's All Bran has the amount of fiber needed to make up what the average person is missing each day. Kellogg's All Bran. It can make all the difference.
Hello, Dallas?
Well, hi, Chicago.
Sounds a little crazy, but we wanted to see if the new fiber optic phone line and the system being built by U.S. Sprint really were so incredibly quiet that you could actually hear a pin drop.
Got it? Loud and clear. That was a pin?
So call now. Find out more and save with U.S. Sprint, where every fiber optic call sounds like you're right next door.
If you accept the basic premise, you are what you drive, there are, admittedly, a number of people who are not a Buick LeSabre. But for people who don't feel the need to leave a blinding impression, LeSabre offers something better, inner beauty. Buick LeSabre is robotically welded, hand-sanded, and clear-coated, built to last long after the new wears off. Buick LeSabre. If you go for substance, it's you. Buick, where better really matters.
Everybody knows how to do that kick. Health kick. Yeah. The goodness of milk is a real health kick. Health kick. Yeah, milk. You pour a glass of milk real tall, getting calcium and vitamins and loving it all. Looking good. Come on, everybody,
She's a single woman who has had 2 babies through artificial insemination. Why are she and thousands of other women having children on their own? Hugh Downs reports. Why mom's the only one? When 2020 continues.
Something new Saturdays. The concerns.
How you and your family can live a longer and healthier life.
The breakthroughs.
New advances in medicine and fitness.
The controversy.
Questions new technologies raise.
The Health Show with Kathleen Sullivan premieres Saturday at 12:30, 11:30 Central and Pacific.
Good evening, I'm Dennis Doda. Here are some of the stories we're working on for you for the news at 10. 250 new jobs are coming to Des Moines at the Iowa Packing Company. Today, Iowa Packing got a $300,000 grant to help with an expansion project. Latimer Bank and Trust will reopen tomorrow under a new name. The Franklin County Bank was closed today by officials. Bad farm loans were blamed. And tonight on our Segment 5 Health Report, help for those who suffer from bladder and urinary problems. Now this.
Take some of the dangers out of winter. Send a self-addressed stamped business-size envelope to 5TV Winter Weather Guide. Post Office Box 10422, Des Moines, 50306.
Don says a frigid night on the way. Wind chills down to 25 below. Join us at 10.
Sofas, love seats, pit groups, sectionals. Homemakers East and Homemakers West are jammed with furniture items that we overbought. The prices are slashed. They must be sold. Every sofa sleeper on sale. Styles, colors, so many to choose from. Buy now. There's no payments, no interest till April 87. Fantastic bargains on recliners, Action and Lazy Boy priced way down. Tremendous buys on Sealy mattress and box springs, including Sealy Posturepedic. Homemakers East on Hubble, Homemakers West on Douglas, Iowa's largest furniture stores.
This is your TV station, 5TV.
This week, the legal argument over baby M has everyone talking about surrogate mothers. That's one part of a revolution that's defining the word family. But there's another, even more powerful trend. Did you know that in the past decade, thousands of single women decided that they wanted to have a baby in their lives, but not the baby's father? Some of these women are calling themselves single mothers by choice. Hugh went to find out not only how and why they make that choice, but also what it's like for mothers when baby makes 2.
This is a group of women who meet monthly to discuss something they have in common. They all made a crucial decision to have children on their own without a husband. They call themselves single mothers by choice, and they've chosen motherhood in different ways. Some adopted, some became pregnant accidentally and decided to have their child, and some of them went out of their way to make themselves pregnant.
Women did have children on their own, but they weren't so open about it. They were shipped to another town or went to Aunt Jane's for a year to have the child. Now we're just not as ashamed of it. We're being open about it. Hopefully we're not that blatant about it, but we're more open, and I'm not ashamed that I am having a child on my own. There's nothing to be ashamed of.
These women are proud of their children and proud of their choice, but there are problems. The number one problem is what to tell their child about daddy. Researchers say that the absence of a male parent is often confusing for children who may feel abandoned by their fathers.
It's very difficult to say what's going to happen when he is asking the question, where's my father, who's my father? But I think that as long as he's secure in the mother-son relationship, it's not going to be that much difficult growing up without the father.
Jolene Manganiello has been thinking about this problem since she had an unplanned pregnancy and chose not to marry her son's father. Lisa Lewis is a founder of Single Mothers by Choice. She also got pregnant accidentally and decided she wanted the child, but not the marriage.
But I still feel guilty. I've deprived him of a father. Do I give him enough male influence in his life? I don't want him to have any bad feelings about men at all. And I know I'd like another one day, and it's, you know, what do you do? I'd like to get married, but it would be very hard. So I might, just have another one on my own again.
Try not to give me a hug. Don't.
You and I have been brought up to think of marriage and conception and parenting as a partnership. But no one ever said that that was the only way to do it. So that
Dr. Stephen Corzon is a fertility expert at Philadelphia Hospital in Pennsylvania. He has treated many single mothers and feels they can provide a healthy environment for a child.
And I think that if you look at children who've been in a home where the parents are divorced after many long years of fighting, or maybe the parents didn't divorce, it's even worse. The child is brought up in a home for 12 or 15 years with a lot of strife, perhaps violence. I think that child is more psychologically bereft than a child brought up in a quiet, loving, single-parent home.
Reassuring as that opinion is to single mothers by choice, there is still their loneliness. Behind the togetherness of their group activities, there is a sense of regret for something lost.
You're all alone. There's no one to share the little things with. You know, when they move, when they kick, when they're born. You wish somebody else was there to see this happening. And my son is now 3.5, and he swims. And it's like, somebody watch, look at him, he's swimming, he's great, you know. But it'd be really nice if you could share it with someone. Swim to me, come on.
Relationships for us are probably not going to happen.
Some of the women in Single Mothers by Choice don't have children yet, like Helen Young. At 32, after several troubled relationships, she has given up hope of marriage. She's choosing a more radical route to motherhood. She's not waiting for an accidental pregnancy. She's looking for a man to make her pregnant.
I have approached some of my male friends and asked them if they would care to be the father of my child somewhere further down the line. And the response has not been yes nor no, but one that we'll discuss at a later time.
Helen is used to making things happen. She is of a generation that aimed for success and got it. Success in everything that is except marriage.
I know there's going to be a lot of men who think that I want everything, that I'm too self-centered, too greedy, that I want it all. And yes, I do. And not only that, but I can get it all. I can get the diamond rings, and I can get the Rolex watches, and I can get the fast car for myself. What I want from a man are the things that I cannot get for myself. What I want is compassion and caring, intimacy, respect. And in the relationships that I've had in the past, I have never gotten that. And unfortunately, I don't think I ever will. But I'm not going to let that deter me from having the family that I want.
Helen is a gemologist. She buys the diamonds that glitter in countless engagement rings.
I think it's only natural to want a child. For me, it certainly is, or it's nature calling me. Many women have said that to me, be they married or not. When you turn 30, nature starts saying something to you. And it has been saying that to me for quite a while. And it's unfortunate there's no one standing at my side right now. But this is something that I will answer and that I will do.
That call to motherhood can be a powerful one. Here in this quiet middle-class neighborhood on New York's Staten Island, it turned Michael Bushman's mother into a pioneer among single women.
Our family is a little different because of 3 children and a mother with no father. Sometimes I feel funny not having a father and all the rest of the kids having a father, but it's not really that bad because I don't really think about it. Because my mother is my mother and my father together into one person. So it's okay.
Can I have some cheese, please?
Sure.
Michael's natural father left his mother, Odette Bushman, before Michael was born, though he drops by occasionally.
No, that's not the one.
8 years later, when Odette wanted more children, there was no man in her life. But there was a new option available to her that once would have been unthinkable.
Good. Sunday afternoon, reading the paper, and I just came across this article on sperm bank. And I read through the article. I couldn't believe it. And I said, hey, Mom, come see this, see this. And she said, well, she said to me, that's you, that's just for you.
2 months ago, Odette had her 3rd child. Little Luke and his 2-year-old brother, Paul, were both conceived by artificial insemination.
Come on, young man. Oh, I know.
For single women, artificial insemination by an anonymous donor is a new alternative to waiting for a man. Odette bought the sperm she needed from a sperm bank. She conceived little Luke from more of the same sperm she had purchased 2 years earlier to conceive Paul. So her 2 younger sons are full brothers. They will never know the donor's identity, nor he theirs. They cannot know their father. But in this brave new world, the idea that every family must have a father, while not obsolete, is being challenged.
Well, for the future, I might decide to have more children, so I bought 9 additional units of the donor sperm, of which 3 I have used, and I have 6 more available to me if I have the nerve. But that's legally, oh yes, they are. They're mine, unless I relinquish control of them. But every year I receive a notice in the mail, and I send in the fee and sign, and they are my sperm.
This is where Odette keeps her sperm, in a sperm bank here in Manhattan. Stored in a tube inside a converted cigar holder like this. Can be a potential family of 3 to 6 more children. Now, no one knows how the children of single mothers are going to turn out, however they're conceived. There are very few studies in existence, but those that are seem to indicate that if a woman is economically secure, and if she has a good support system, that her children are likely to turn out as well as those in any other family. Dr. Corzon was among the first physicians to provide artificial insemination to single women.
Well, about 6 or 7 years ago, a patient came in and requested donor insemination, a single woman, career woman, as most of them are. And my, of course, knee-jerk reaction was no. That was almost an unwritten law that this is something that she didn't do. And she challenged me and said that I was being biased and that there really weren't good reasons not to. So with this challenge, I read some of the sociologic literature, which I had not read, and came to the conclusion that she was right. It shows you that these women are dedicated mothers.
I have to ask you, as a man, do you feel you might be doing something that's making fathers obsolete?
I don't think that fathers will ever become obsolete, at least I hope not. There are good and bad fathers, and there are good and bad mothers. We would like to think that someone who goes out of her way to initiate a pregnancy in this fashion is going to be a good mother.
Powerful mothering instincts and strong personalities seem to characterize most women who choose single motherhood. That may be why they find it hard to meet the right man. They value their independence, but they pay a price. For Odette, as for all the single mothers you've seen, there is no husband with a weekly paycheck, no alimony or child support. For Odette, what there is a night job as a waitress and, thanks to a bank loan, mornings spent at law school.
One of the things that was on my mind most is, well, when am I going to meet the man that I'll fall in love with and marry? That's not what I think about anymore. I don't wake up in the morning wondering, is this the day where I might meet a nice young man in the grocery store or at law school? If it happens, it happens. This was the best thing for me to do, and I want people to see what I've done, and I want them to have open minds about this, mostly for my children's sake. I want them to be accepted, and I want to show everyone that I have beautiful children, and that I did it on my own, and that it's okay. It can be done that way.
Boy, she has a tough job. I wonder when she sleeps. You know, Hugh, it isn't a terrible disgrace now to have a child without marriage, and women can support themselves, but what did you think was the most important when you were seeing all these women?
Well, I think, for one thing, women are coming out from under a kind of a forced dependency now. So for some women, it's appropriate to do what you see these women doing. Most important is that they have a base, a marketable skill, or some means of income, because it's tragic if they aren't able to support the child, love the child.
Of course, we don't know what it's like when the children become teenagers and older and they're in school. Who's your father?
The studies haven't gone that far yet. You know, the preliminary evidence is that if the child is loved and provided for, the child will come out about as well as if he had both parents. But Well, I don't think it'll ever be a threat to the institution of marriage because not everybody, it's not for everybody. But it does work for those who want it, apparently.
Well, they're special women.
We'll be right back.
To those people who haven't yet said bye-bye basics, hello, Nissan Sentra, who haven't experienced the longer, wider, roomier Sentra, who haven't known the superior fit and finish of Sentra. To those people who bought basic when they could have bought a new 1987 Sentra, Nissan would like to say, relax, we've got one waiting for you. The quality and value is Sentra. The name is Nissan.
We made some changes that I know you are going to love. Marty, I'll love it when I see it on paper.
Why wait for overnight delivery to make a business decision?
This won't fly, Marty, but my client will.
Fax what you need in seconds over AT&T long distance.
You gotta do more.
It's the most efficient way to send hard copy or pictures most anywhere.
Frank, now we're talking business. You two are now one super agency.
For all the facts, call AT&T. The right choice.
This is dedicated to the ones we love. You know what your problem is, Eric?
Alice?
You're 43 years old, and you still eat cold pizza and donuts for breakfast.
So that's it.
All that sugar, all those preservatives.
Hold it. Should I try Nutri-Grain?
Delicious Nutri-Grain. Only the whole grain with no preservatives and no sugar added.
Goodbye.
Wait, does this mean you love me?
Yes.
Kellogg's Nutri-Grain cereal.
Dedicated to the ones we love.
This could be a carpet's most damaging enemy, ordinary fruit punch, and it's about to put these two pieces of carpet to the test. One is new DuPont certified Stain Master carpet, the other a leading carpet with the best-known stain guard. After cleaning with just water, the Stain Master advantage becomes obvious. Unbelievable? Prove it yourself at this display in carpet stores everywhere, because until you've seen it, you've never seen anything like it. New Stain Master from DuPont Carpet Fibers.
Tomorrow, meet the astronauts who will fly the first space shuttle mission since the Challenger disaster. Also, Linda Ellerby's TGIF and Shirley MacLaine tomorrow on Good Morning America.
I was vibrating with a strange, almost magnetic energy.
An adventure into the fantastic.
When are you going to tell me what's really going on?
A journey into the unusual.
Are these UFOs?
Dare to experience Shirley MacLaine's true story. Out on a Limb, Sunday.
Now here's Ted Koppel with a word about tonight's Nightline. Ted?
Hugh will talk tonight with an Iranian businessman who says he was involved in the Iran arms deal and who has a startling answer to the question of who really started it all. He says it was the Ayatollah Khomeini himself. Hugh?
Thanks, Ted. And tomorrow, ABC News will present a new Person of the Week. Peter Jennings will have a profile on World News Tonight. And that's 2020 for tonight. Thank you for being with us.
And remember, we're in touch, so you be in touch. I'm Barbara Walters.
And I'm Hugh Downs.
And for everyone here at 2020, good night.
Saturday, when Rizzo... Later, he's one of LA's finest and most offbeat cops, and he has a gift that lets him know how a criminal will react. Pat Morita is O'Hara. Saturday, starting at 8, 7 Central.
For a transcript of this or any 2020 broadcast, please send $3 to 2020 Transcripts, 2 John Street, New York, New York, 10038. This has been the ABC News Magazine 2020.
Coming up, Iowa's personal income takes a slide. 250 new jobs are coming to Des Moines, but another Iowa bank falls victim to the farm economy. In segment 5, help for people with bladder problems. And the last man to visit the Wizard in Oz dies. In sports, 5 TV's Athlete of the Week, And Don says, button up your overcoat. This and more next on Iowa News Tonight.
Are you concerned about your drinking water? Are you buying bottled water? Culligan's new drinking water system controls impurities and contaminants by means of reverse osmosis.